Hello and welcome to Chapter 6 for Document Design and Graphics. This is going to be an important lecture for you to keep track of when it comes to our final project. One of the aspects of the final project is some type of graphic or multiple for more points. And this is going to be the section, the chapter, the lecture that is going to help you understand and format those graphics. So let's go ahead and get to it. We're going to talk about designing the documents, who's going to read the graphic, why are we putting graphics in there? We're going to talk about designing graphics and different types of graphics, actually. So document design and graphics. First, you are going to design that document for your audience and the purpose. Then what you can think of is, where can I add graphics? What would the purpose of that graphic be? You want to format graphics to make them easy to understand, and you want to make sure that those graphics align with your audience and the purpose of your document. You don't want to put a graphic just to put a graphic. These graphics need to have some meaning behind them and some reasoning as to why they are there. In technical writing, how your words are going to look on the page is just as important as what the words say. So remember, we want to keep our document clean, well-designed, making it very easy for your reader to find what they're looking for. Sometimes those graphics, that's where they're going to help. So it's going to make it visually friendly so that is going to help your reader stay focused. It's going to help them find that important information, and it is going to help them find what they are looking for. Now, design elements that we use within our document that we use to our benefit actually are things like the white space, the text, the headings, the graphics, and medium. So remember, we talked about this a while back in one of the first few lectures. Blank spaces, separating elements on a page, making things easy to find. The design elements, including the font, the size, emphasis, that again is going to help make things easy to find. Headings, introducing main ideas of your portion. And I'm going to skip graphics. I'm going to go to medium, the paper and how you are presenting it. Finally, we're going to go into graphics. That is going to be their visual representation of information that is already located in your document. So again, it is going to bring your reader's eye to a specific section. Have you ever read a document and kind of started to glaze over the words, and so your eye tends to go straight to whatever the next picture, graph, table is? I know I have. So who's going to read the graphic? What you need to remember when you are thinking about your graphics, how much information does your reader already know? How interested are your readers in the subject? Do your readers need the technical information and figures? Does their reading level tend to be a higher level or a lower level? And how and where are they going to access the graphic? Are they going to access it on their phone? Are they going to access it on print? Those are going to be two very different ways that you're going to present a graphic. Picture is worth 1,000 words. So different types of graphics, tables, graphs, charts, diagrams, and images. And we're going to go through actually several different types of each of these. But again, remember, who's going to read them? So what is your purpose of your writing, and how can graphics help you achieve that purpose? So for example, a pie graph over here on the right-hand side, the one that's the circle, that's going to show how the whole of something is divided into different parts. And it's going to show you how those parts are related. So I can look at that pie graph. I don't know at all what that is about, but I definitely know that that orange slice has a lot less contribution to the overall effect than the blue does. And that's just based on size and color. A flowchart, which is the graphic on the left, is going to show you a process. So here, for example, the lamp doesn't work. Ask myself, is the lamp plugged in? Nope. Well, we need to plug in the lamp. Okay, yes, it's plugged in. Is the bulb burned out? Replace the bulb or repair the lamp. So again, two very different purposes. So two very different graphics. When we design our graphics, we are going to keep our graphics very neat and simple. Remember, we don't want to clutter everything up. That's not their purpose. Provide keys to measurements. So if you're going to have colors, make sure you explain if the colors mean something. You do want to integrate the graphics with the text. So make sure that you do have text explaining the graphic and that there's not just a graphic there meant to do its own thing. And you do want to use color effectively. So using color effectively. It can be used to indicate the organization, to emphasize, clarify. It can be used to support a specific topic. It makes your document pretty, let's just be honest. And it does improve visibility sometimes for visually impaired readers. You do need to be careful though sometimes if you might have someone who is colorblind reading, it may have a different effect than what you intend. Now, first things first, you have to decide which graphic is best for what your purpose is. So table, graph, chart, diagram, or picture. Many technical documents often have multiple types of these graphics. Okay, so you may have a table with an associated chart or a graph. You may put in pictures that are related or diagrams, but typically you'll have more than just, say, all tables. Tables come in three different forms: informal, formal, and verbal. So an informal table, you're not going to have any lines or column headings, and I'm sure we've seen these in textbooks before. Formal table, this is more of what we are used to when it comes to table. Formal tables, though, are typically what we call when it is all contained, when all of the data is numerical. Thank you. Sorry about that. Verbal table is also what we would call a chart, and it's very similar to a formal table, but it has words instead of numbers. Now, both the formal table and the verbal table will have lines and both on rows and columns to make it easier to read. And typically they will have column headings and or row headings. A graph, on the other hand, is something a little bit more of a picture and more of an interpretation of the data than your tables. So we're going to look at that was a bar and a line put together, a bar, line, and pie graphs. We're going to look at pictographs, Gantt charts, infographics, and diagrams and pictures. Bar graphs, these are typically used to represent or compare numerical data. It uses bars that typically go in a vertical way from the x-axis up to the y-axis. So you have different types though. There are vertical or horizontal bar graphs. You can have a multiple bar graph. You can have a pictograph or a divided bar graph or a histograph. So this right here just shows an example of a very simple bar graph. So make sure your axes are numbered. You've got today's sales and you've got the vendors going across the bottom, and you can see vendor C and vendor E have the highest sales. A line graph is going to use to show a trend. A lot of times it is a trend over time. You can also have a multiple line graph where there are multiple lines, which is what this example is about. So here you can see there is time across the bottom. So you've got school years and you've got student expenditures on your vertical axis. And then here you've got blue is your total in unadjusted dollars, and the orange is the total in constant dollars. So you can very quickly see and compare the two different trends over time. A pictograph is a bar chart that is going to represent your data in pictures instead of bars. The most familiar of these is the basically 5-star system that you see in reviews, whether it be a product review, say on Amazon, or in a movie review, things like that. It'll be, say, 3 out of 5 stars. That is really a pictograph. An infographic is infographics are becoming more and more popular, and an infographic is going to combine text and graphics, and it's going to represent information very quickly. A lot of times infographics can act as a standalone poster per se, so they have become a lot more common here, especially during COVID and things like that, where you'll see pictures and text combined. Now, a pie graph, we've talked about this just a little bit, but that's a circular graphic showing how the part is related to the whole. So here you've got different continents, and how that percentage of that continent makes up the whole world. So next, we're going to move on to charts. So a chart is a drawing with boxes, words, and lines. Typically, charts are going to show a process or some sort of structure. So for example, we've got flow charts, we've got organizational charts, and we have Gantt charts. So a flow chart, that's going to use lines and arrows to show a process or a series of steps. On the other hand, a decision flow chart indicates critical decisions that need to be made and the possible outcomes of those decisions. So the biggest difference here in this decision flow chart are the diamond, I think they're actually called rhombus shapes that are in there, and that is going to indicate a decision that has to be made at some level. And if that decision is no, or that decision is yes, what the follow-up steps to that decision would be. An organizational chart uses boxes, words, and lines to show how an organization is structured. This is very, very similar to, say, your family tree. So you've got your higher ups higher up on the org chart, closer to the top, and you've got your lower employees more towards the bottom. You can see here in this, the airport director reports to the airport board. And if you look one step below the airport director, the deputy director, the 3 deputy directors all report to the airport director. So that would be how you would read an organizational chart. A Gantt chart, on the other hand, is a bar chart, and it is typically used for scheduling. So it is helpful to schedule a task or a complex project, especially when tasks are related. So say here, we cannot complete or even start interviews until the preliminary investigation has completed. So if that preliminary investigation were to take, say, 5 weeks instead of 4, the way a Gantt chart works is that all of the ones below that, so the interviews, the report, the evaluation, the final report, and training, would all then move to the right 1 additional week. So it is definitely helpful to see if projects are going to be completed on time, how delays are going to affect you down the road, and things of that nature. Next, diagrams and pictures. A diagram, drawing, or a photo, it's going to show what something looks like, or it can illustrate a process. And an icon is going to give quick information or to just be there to direct a reader's attention to something specific. So a diagram, for example, it's going to be a drawing, typically a line drawing, not usually a realistic drawing, and it's going to have indicators of different parts or specific things you want to show the reader. So for this example, at the very top, we are pointing to a rim diameter code, and that is what that little portion of what is on the tire is for. So those different words with the little lines and arrows, those are called call outs. And that is really why the purpose of the diagram is there, to show how the call outs and the different pieces relate to each other on a more realistic scale. An icon, simple, easy to use, recognizable picture or drawing. So say, for example, we have an icon that has, the email sign. And so you can very easily visually find where that email is in that document. So that's why icons can be good. Finally, a photograph. That is when your realism is needed. It'll create emotion. It's supporting in a message. A lot of times in technical documents, if it is about a product, you will see a diagram, possibly with a photograph next to it. So what you might see is the pencil drawing or the stick drawing with the call outs, and then what the final product does look like in the photograph at the end. So again, in your final project, at least 1 graphic is required. Refer to this lecture for your graphic types. Okay, you do get more points for more graphics. I believe up to 3 graphics is the maximum number of points you get for graphics. But definitely take a moment and look in that rubric to see. Assignment 6, there are a few different types of graphics in here, and you're being asked to critique what they look like. So look for mistakes, list suggestions. The first one is going to be a table. So what is missing on the table? What could make it look better? What could make it easier to read? Again, same with the pie graph. Critique the pie graph, look for mistakes and look for suggestions. Where could it look better? Oops. Finally, I actually think this one is kind of fun. You're going to create your organizational chart, and kind of reminds me of like I don't know, a clue game or something. But you've got the president, you've got the vice president, they report to the president, and you're just going to create your hierarchy of your organizational chart of who reports to who. And you're going to have a nice little org chart when you get finished with that assignment. So there are 3 different parts to this assignment. If you have any questions, as always, shoot me an email and I will see you next time.